So all we got done really is two things we found out. One, we had to turn the clutch around because once the motor was hitting, this was too far out for lining up with that. Now, the motor's not straight, as you can tell, but it will be. Eventually, there'll be a few other modifications. We're going to change this muffler, or at least add a downpipe so it dumps it down there, and a few other little minor things to it just to make it better. But it does sit in there. It does line up half decent with where we're supposed to be. As I say, this needs to be flipped over, and everything should line up nice and neat. We'll get that back. Later, we're wanting to possibly put a thicker tire in the front. We've been running this one for years. It does work, but the tube's blown in it, and we'll use it to start with. But it does run a little rough, so we might change it up to like a wheelbarrow tire. When we do that, I think we're going to lengthen the forks a bit and get it down. When this is sitting on the ground, it does sit a bit nose down, so this is hitting things. So I want to bring it up a little bit, make it a little more off-road. But for now, we'll get it running with this one just for test runs, and then we can make more improvements to it as we go. As you can tell, today we're outside. It's currently 24 Celsius, feeling like 26. I'll put in what that is in Fahrenheit in the corner there somewhere for our American friends. Anyways, it's warm, it's muggy. Being in the garage is very sticky. Not much air circulation with it's just a regular garage. So we threw up a roof, and we're working out here for now. Gives us something to keep us from getting burnt, but yet makes for a nice day. Alrighty, I'm gonna start off getting Frankie to remove a couple things. He might need some help because some of these are probably rusted. But first we're gonna start with getting this undone, and we're gonna turn this around so it's facing the right direction. And then we're gonna get this off. It's old school metal, so we're just gonna do it, pry it open. We're gonna flip it over onto this side so your brake's on this hand, not where the throttle is. And then we'll take this apart, and then this cable will be going to the brake that'll be on top of this. Write it down and then do it again. You always do it twice just to make sure. So write down the number. Okay, and then do it one more time just to make sure. Alright, Francis got this swapped over to this side, so now the brakes are on this hand. As I say, that cable's actually going to come down to the brake over that. We got two of the bolts in place, but I got the wrong size nuts, so we got to go get some nuts to fit those ones. We need a bolt that fits in here. The one I have right thread is way too long, so we got to get a nice little short one. We got to get some gasoline because all I've got is mix right now. Thought I had some other, but I don't. We got to leave this up a bit more still. It's sticky. So on this part, we'll put a nut on both sides of this so it holds this bolt straight and rigid, and that will hold the brake in place on this bracket. And then, as I say, the cable goes through here to this where it's got the coupler, and that'll pull it closed. And bada boom, we have brakes. One brake mount. Okay, so there's the concept. We got our bracket built. No sharp edges to cut anybody. We've got our bolt that's going to go through. I'm going to try to find a little barrel spacer for in here, something tiny, just to make sure everything kind of stays a little more rigid. And then the cable slipped underneath the bolt, goes into here, dead center of the little rack that came with it, and then has the clip on the end here. Then when you apply the brake, everything snaps shut. Nice and simple. So our next step is to I'm going to look into what we need to make a cover over. Now this is nice because this now protects you here basically, but this part here is still spinning. So and you know, I'm going to build a little you know, chain cover of some sort, come across and mount down back here. Alright, so here's our brake mechanism. Got our bracket that we built, got our mounted. Now I'm going to come with this. We've got to get it from here to a fastener in there. It does come with the little pin that goes through here and has a hole in it. Alright, here we go. The pin that came with it is actually also the clamp for the cable. So that worked very well. Got a couple washers and stoppers here for the base. Nice and neat, tidy. Doesn't actually touch the drum. Very close, but doesn't. So that's fine. As that straightens out with you, so it'll be fine. So we can turn it, but when you squeeze the handle, you can't. One more turn. So this is good. You can see the movement there. So we may have to adjust a little bit, but we'll see when it comes to actual running time. Got the back tire on. I'm not sure if I'm lined up 100%, so we're going to have to see if we have to move spacers. Get that done yet. We still have to hook this up, so we don't have any throttle at the moment. Not hooked to anything. Kill switch, I just finished hooking up. Basically, there's two wires out of this. I ran two because I wanted to ground. So I ran two wires through here to make sure it was grounding here. They come down, go into the frame. One goes onto the motor as a good ground. The other one just tapped into the actual original kill switch. So now, I gotta close that somehow. Close that up. There we go. There we go. So now, there we go. So now we have a kill switch that runs right off of up here. So now you're not trying to reach down under your leg to turn it off. Made that mistake once, not a good idea. So she's running, she's bolted down. Now we just got to see if our chain goes on true, and then hook up our throttle and build. I have to modify this slightly because it doesn't clip in quite the way it's supposed to anymore. So I'm going to modify it slightly, and then I've got to build a chain guard here so we don't get pant legs or anything caught into this. That would not be a good thing. So I'm going to design a custom chain guard for this. come down, cover the chain at least as far as here, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, went to my favorite store and got a new sprocket. Reason being, the fun part. When we purchased the sprocket or the clutch, it came with the chain. Thankfully, the chain I thought was 40 pitch. It's actually 41. This is a 40 pitch. Very, very minor difference, but enough the chain would not go around it. So, ran off to my favorite store. I went up a couple teeth just to balance it out a bit more so it's not quite so fast, hopefully. So this was a 36 tooth, 40 pitch. And this one is a 40 tooth. So we went up 4 teeth. And 4 teeth can make a huge difference. So hopefully that'll make a good difference. This is a weld-on, so it had no holes. I just plopped this on top of it, lined everything up perfectly, dotted my holes, and drilled them out. Only one of them was off just a fraction. I just had to make it a teeny bit bigger. All the other 3, man, just lined up perfectly. I was so lucky. Anyway, so we've got that back together. So now we can get this back onto the bike, and we can actually get a chain on it. I also hit the store, picked up some bolts and stuff we need, finish bolting down the motor, and get that stuff together. So we'll get back at it. When you're fabricating, sometimes you have to think outside the box if you don't have the right tools or you need something in a pinch. In this case, I'm trying to create a little bended piece of metal that hooks into the throttle so that when you pull it, it's pulling on it, and I can hook the cable up differently. So what I need is a piece of metal that goes basically in a zigzag, so it's going to go along, down, and then back along again. Well, I don't have the right jig for it, so I've taken my needle nose pliers. I got a 90 on it already. I've got approximate width I want. Then I've clamped my needle nose inside vice grips to keep them clamped tighter than I can hold them. And now I'm going to bend this piece back up this way, so it'll make that little kink that you drop in that you see on all lawnmowers and stuff like that. Let's see how it goes. Okay, there's my initial bend. Now I think I'm going to try to put a little loop in the end of it so I can somehow incorporate the cable from the throttle onto it. And I think what we'll do is we'll just steal the spring off of our governor here because we're not using it. Don't need that. I'll just remove it altogether, and I'll kidnap that spring, hook it up to our throttle, and away we go. Hopefully that'll get that working, and then we find out how to incorporate this little gadget to the end of that. Alright, we're getting the throttle hooked together. I made a funky little clip. I got it in there. Cable comes through. We're going to build just a clamp that holds the cable here, and that way we can adjust it. We can move the cable forward or reverse, whatever we need to get the right pull. Now on this side we took the return spring and the governor off for the spring for the governor. Now it's going to be our spring. As you can see, I've already got it bent. I've already designed where it's got to go. We're taking the governor that we had here, and it's actually being mounted right here. The only thing is that the governor is designed to be pulled on a slant sideways, this way, so it has all kinds of strength. We're pulling it this way, it doesn't have any strength, so I've got to reinforce it here. But basically what's going to happen is it bolts through this lovely hole the motor already has for me. Right there, we'll bend over the bottom flange so it doesn't turn and twist, and the spring goes into it right there. That gives us our return spring for our gas. So that accomplishes that as well. So now we're getting there, getting down to the nitty gritties. So I got to weld something in here, as I say, find an old bolt or something that I can just weld in there to stiffen it up, because it's a little too, like this much it's not flexible, but from this end to this end it's very flexible, enough that it moves when I'm pulling the throttle. So we'll get that fixed. We found some metal, so that is going to make our new shroud for over this and down for the chain. Our only problem now is with the new sprocket and this, our chain is, when it sits perfectly on here, it's loose. And even when I tighten up this, these are slightly ovaled. When I tighten it up, I can't get it tight enough. But when I loosen it up, I can't get it loose enough to go a half link tighter. I have a half link, I believe, but I can't get it to go down that half link. And I have to check that half link I have might be a 40, not a 41. So I might have to go get a 41 half link. But anyways, that's our current problem. Is that that's probably going to be our biggest thorn in our side. The rest I can fabricate. I cannot fabricate a half link, and I'm not about to cut and move this or anything. This has been, like I say, here for 15 years, give or take, and yeah, it hasn't gone anywhere. I'm not going to mess with it. So we'll figure out how to do this, or put a chain tightener. We just stay with the single link, pull this back as tight as I can, and put a chain tightener on it so that it brings up the slack. That is the second option. So we will see which one we go with, and we'll go from there. But other than that, and still needing a front tube. I'm still a little bit flat up there. But yeah, we're getting there. We're almost done. I'll show you as things keep progressing. Alright, now that we get the throttle on that side, the spring, we got the throttle cable wrapped around nice and neat here. We need to get it in place. Right here is where we want it to be. So what I created was just this little thing. It's a washer, but I bent a lip on it. So what it's going to be is it screws in here, and when it screws down, this clamps down over this. The reason for the bend, instead of just going with a regular straight washer, is that the bend holds the cable. So when you have that slant, it doesn't squirt out. So if you're, show you this way, if I'm clamping down on something like this, I push down, it's going to start just pushing the cable out like that. This way, as I push down, it can't. It pushes on the cable and keeps it from moving. So we'll get this in there. That'll get the cable in place. Then all we have left is to try and get our chain arranged, see if we need a tightener, and then we'll test it some before I build the whole shroud and get that in my way, just in case I've got to adjust some other stuff. Well, got a new tube, so now we're going to get this put in this, and at least we'll be able to hold air for a little bit. There we go. I'm going to throw some oil in there. Although that spins pretty good for being sitting for like the last 3 years. I'm impressed. Now I kind of did a little bit of a dumb on this in the sense that I did not check to make sure there was nothing poking through the tire before I put that new tube in. Doesn't look like there is, so I think it was just a case of a pinch or something at some point. Or I hit something really hard and popped it. I think it still holds air, but it could just even be a really bad valve. Who knows? But we'll check it if it works. If it's just a bad valve, then maybe we'll get a new valve for it and keep a spare tube. But anyways, there we go. We got a new tube. So I'm going to oil up those bearings a little bit, although they spin pretty good, but we'll oil them up a bit more. And away we go. Get that back on. One more step down. Alright, now onto the chain. I went to the store, got myself a half link, and I have the original link. Fun with a half link is you actually have to take out a link and a half. You can't just take out a half. It doesn't work that way. So you have to have your regular full link that hooks in to your half a link that hooks into the other one. So it takes some calculating to get your chain in the right place, figure out where you've got to take your tooth out. Otherwise, you can really kind of mess them up. So, when doing this, you have your half a link, which fits there. But then it gives you a base, the same as this one, that now you have to have your full link. Alright, chain's on. So, we have the half link here, the whole link here. I put the connectors on the inside. Yes, it's a bit more of a pain at times, but in this case I've got more room on the inside than I do on the outside. So until everything adjusts here and rides nice, it's going to be better on that side. The other thing is I always figure out what way the chain's traveling and make sure that I snap the link that way so that anything catching it's not going to try to open the one link up. So I was going to snap it closed. Alright. Popped at our half link. Alright. Right. Oh, it started to move. The cotter pin at the half link let go. Worked good when I tested it. Alright, we'll put that back on. And so, we found the culprit. It's this bolt here. The inside of the chain just kind of grazes it because that little tab sticks out just a little. It snapped it right off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see about grinding this down to about half its width. Really, we shouldn't need to remove this unless we're doing something with the brakes. This band should stay here, period. So I'm going to grind that down a little so that it's not tapping on it, and then we'll put things back together again and see how it goes this time. Taco. brakes applied and then continue to slip. So I'm going to have to get the brakes to work better. Okay, made a few modifications here. One, we got the breather in here finally, but because of modifying to close, we had to zip tie it shut. But, oh well, it's shut. Runs a little better now. The other problem we had, the brakes seemed to slip a little. I had put washers here. The washers were actually sitting on the rubber, not on the metal. And as you see, it scrunchied it. So the brakes were slipping more and more. So I modified this slightly, just made it a little bit more round so this could insert in. We got the brakes up. Now, when I pull the handle, way more brake power. So we got that done. Chain's working good now. And we just got to play kind of with this side and figure out what's up with the choke gas. It's running, but not 100%. I don't know if I got a slight fuel pump problem or what. But it does run. It is working. So we have success. We actually have it back up and running to some degree. So two things to do is fix idle so it works a little better and build a chain guard so we don't end up with our pants in it. So that's it for the mini bike for now. As I say, we got a couple little things to fix on it and tweak up, but it is running. We can take it out and have some fun, and looking forward to it. If I get any more video of it ripping around, I'll definitely be sharing it. We're in the midst of a bunch of other little things, moose and the swamp buggy, and try to get the gears not to slip and squeak. So anyways, hope you enjoyed. If you're interested in building one, I hope that helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm more than willing to answer any questions I can. And other than that, I'll see you next video.